Welcome back to the Roundabout. After getting some great tips from Mr. Karibi-Whyte, Caitlin and I will demonstrate a mock interview on the do's and don'ts of interviewing. So before we get started, Caitlin is not the worst interviewee.
Okay.
We're just doing a mock interview. So what are the kind of questions that we're going to be getting?
Well, you're going to get typical questions. I just thought about 3 that we could use to kind of point out certain good, do's and don'ts. All right, so Caitlin, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a senior in college, graduating this May, looking to get a job soon. I live at home with my parents and my younger sister. I have a part-time job at a gym, working at a daycare. So that's what I do with my part-time. And that's a little bit about myself.
Excellent. Do you have any weaknesses, any challenges?
I have a really hard time waking up early. So sometimes I'm a little tardy, but I'm usually on time. I would say that's one of my biggest weaknesses.
Tell me, why should we consider you for this position?
I think the job fits me well. I'm a people person, so I'm a good team player. I like to work with people. I'm loyal, so I would be loyal to the company. And I think that's why I would be a good suit.
All right. Thank you. Very good. What Caitlin just did was a very matter-of-fact response to the questions that I asked her. What typically most people would do would be exactly what Caitlin just did, and which is why some interviewers or interviewees are more effective than others. The very first question is a question that you're going to get for the most part every time in different forms. They basically want you to introduce yourself, but introduce yourself selling. So you basically have to speak to the job as opposed to your life history. So talk about yourself in response to what you can do for the employer. So you can talk about your college education in terms of how it relates to the position, talk about your work in terms of how it relates to the position that you're here to interview for.
Is there a line between selling yourself for the job and being a little too cocky or forward?
Yes, there's absolutely a line.
How do you draw that line?
Well, the line is this: that you have to kind of put yourself first, but understand that you need the job.
Okay.
Right.
So be basically respectful in terms of showing that you understand that you're going to be working in a team environment. It's not going to be all about you. So that's one way to kind of stay humble as you describe your capabilities, but not to be so humble where you become just ordinary or you defeat yourself in terms of selling. Right. And I think the very last part of the questions that I asked you, the weaknesses were fine because you actually stated your weakness. You could have done it a little bit better in terms of making me feel more comfortable with the weakness that you have. You basically have to practice that and speak directly to the job itself and the organization.
Okay.
So yes, you're speaking, so it's about you and you want the job, so you don't really have to say a whole lot of I, but project yourself into the position that you're going to be doing and talk about how you plan on using your skills to do that job well.
Anything in particular that you think a lot of students miss when they do interviews?
One of the things that probably students miss when they do interviews is the fact that they give very, very matter-of-fact, factual information,
Right.
which is what you did. But I'll tell you what works. What works are examples, stories, in response to the question that you asked, so that people remember. People tend to remember stories more often than they remember facts. So examples go a long way. And examples go a long way in terms of stressing the fact that, or emphasizing the fact that you actually did something. That's why you have a story to tell. That's why you have an example.
So can we turn the tables around on you and interview you?
Absolutely.
So what would you say are some of your weaknesses?
I'll say one that I could consider a weakness, and other people may, and sometimes it could be advantageous as well, is the fact that I pretty much overanalyze things. I do the analysis paralysis thing. Okay. So I could be on a subject for days, But if you're working in a team environment, people usually want to spend a few minutes, so maybe an hour max, doing that, and they want to move on to the next thing. But I'm still there. I'm still thinking about options of how could we do this, how could we do it better, what color, what name, this and that.
Right.
So I sweat the small stuff.
Small stuff.
Now, Mr. Karibi-Whyte, we're interviewing a lot of people, as you may know. Why should we hire you?
You should hire me for this position, whatever that position is, because I have the right background for the position in terms of my work history, the things that I've done in the past, my ability to connect with people, and for the fact that I've had a series of successes doing similar things.
Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Karibi-Whyte. That was great. I'd hire you. I know Katie would too.
I'd hire you.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Why don't you? Thank you. All right.